Hi, welcome back. We are going to talk about some of my top makeup items for textured skin. So right now my skin's going through another flare up. I have some bumps on my chin. I have redness and texture all throughout, especially the top portion of my cheek right here. And I thought this would be the perfect time to share some items in my collection that I think perform really well on skin that has texture. So we're talking about acne, scarring, enlarged pores, and just texture in general. I think some of these are going to come as a surprise to you because oftentimes when I speak about texture, I talk about using things that have minimal pigment. The reality of that is I know some of you struggle with redness like I do. Again, acne is really going to have that super red appearance on the surface of the skin. And so sheer products aren't always going to give you the desired results. Fortunately, I feel like in the past few years, medium to full coverage foundations have really improved on their texture and their thinness. And so it's one thing if a foundation has a lot of pigment and is thick. That's when you're really going to notice makeup on the skin, creasing. But I think some of these formulas that I am going to share with you today have a beautiful, thin, flexible texture, but also offer pigment, which is a win-win in my opinion. And I just find that they offer the best of both worlds. You get coverage, but also that breathable, lightweight, flexible finish. And a great example of that is what I'm currently wearing on my skin right now, which is the Kosas Revealer Foundation. This is kind of like an absolute go-to anytime my skin's having a flare-up and I have texture redness, because immediately it covers the redness, but it also feels really moisturizing on my skin. And I don't want that to deter you if you are combination oily, because I feel like this is a pretty suitable foundation for most skin types. It's not overly glowy, but you can feel it's moisturizing the skin. And regardless if you're combination oily or dry, everyone needs some added, moisture to their skin. So don't let that scare you when I say it feels very hydrating on the skin. Something about this formula, it has amazing coverage, but it is breathable and thin and can be applied in a lot of different ways. I like using a beauty blender with this formula. It looks great with a brush as well, but since it does have significant pigment, I just find on my skin, I really love how it looks with the actual beauty blender. So the reason I think that this is great for textured skin is that it sits really well on top of the skin. I don't find that it sinks down into my pores. It really just almost has like this invisible layer on top of the skin. So no sinking. I don't find that it looks creasy on me after I've worn it for several hours. It just has good coverage and a very, like hydrating veil on top of my skin. So this is definitely one of my top foundations I reach for when I am, experiencing more texture than usual. So this is a new discovery for me, and it's going to be for those of you who want something that's just going to be perfect for daily wear. It's not too much coverage, definitely buildable, but it's also not a sheer product. Also, if you have mature skin, this is a really beautiful formula, and it's number 7 Lift and Luminate Triple Action Serum Foundation. So I would say you could definitely get a medium coverage with this formula. It has this beautiful skin-like appearance, and what really amazed me when I first tried this is that it was really undetectable on my skin. I mean, I just felt like there was some type of magic to the formula to where it truly looks like a second skin, but you do get a decent amount of coverage. This is one I prefer to apply with my hands or an actual brush. Something about it with a beauty blender wasn't my favorite. I don't know if it's because the texture of it is very buildable. So when you go in with a beauty blender with this, you definitely aren't going to get significant coverage upon first application. So I think if you want to build it up, use your hands or an actual foundation brush. So this looks beautiful in my opinion with a sheer amount of coverage, or if you build it up to a medium coverage. I would say 2 full pumps gives me a significant medium coverage, 1 pump, a nice light sheer coverage. But specifically going back to the mature skin, if you have mature skin, this is one that just lays really nicely. I mean, I cannot see this formula looking crepey or cakey in any type of fine line or wrinkled area, mainly because I do have some deeper set lines throughout here. I don't want to hear it. I know some of y'all say you're like an honorary grandmother to me, but I do have some deeper set lines happening here, okay? And this foundation just simply does not settle. It looks like this it just looks like fresh and healthy skin. And I think it's a great contender. You should be able to find, if you're in the UK, I know number 7's more popular there. I find it at Target and Walgreens. I just firmly believe this foundation should be in everyone's collection. So here we go again. Estee Lauder Double Wear Sheer. It's just quickly. I've only been using this for 2 years now, but it's up there. Like, I just love this. I'm never disappointed in the way that it looks. It's thin. When it says sheer, I would say you can get a light medium coverage with this. So out of all of the foundations I'm going to mention today, this is going to be in the mid-range category for coverage, but something about it really does make the skin look perfected. I feel like brands are either, hydrating, glowy, luminous, or ultra matte, flat finish. You know what I'm saying? Unless you're a skin tint, you're falling into one of those two categories. This is not. This is satin finish, beautiful, lovely, breathable. Could work for extremely oily, could also work for extremely dry. You know why? Because it is not overly glowy and it's not overly matte. It's thin. I love applying this with my hands, quick application. I just featured this in my quick applying makeup products video. So yeah, it just pretty much falls into every category. And absolutely, if anything, it just makes the skin look better. Like, you will not see texture with this. Only time I could see this possibly being an issue is if you have extremely, extremely dry skin. So I'm talking like flaky, patching, dry skin. You'll probably want to go for something more hydrating like the Kosas. This is not a hydrating foundation, but it has great longevity. It's got that double wear claim that I find really it matches up to, it meets up to that claim. Another great example, when I was talking at the beginning of this video, foundations nowadays that have a good amount of coverage but also a thin flexible texture, and it is NARS Light Reflecting. I do find this to actually be kind of similar to Kosas, not in the texture but just the finish of it. They are both a pretty full coverage foundations. You can definitely build these up to full coverage. You'll find that the NARS Light Reflecting is thinner. When you pump it out, it's going to be a little bit more on the watery side. So when I talk about a thin foundation formula, that's what I mean. Those formulas always perform better, in my opinion, on textured skin. I don't know what the science is behind it, but I love when I see that just watery consistency. It's just thinner, it's not moussey, it's not matte, it is very flexible. And maybe that's what it is. It just has more flexibility from that thinner texture. And so along with that comes, just a smoother finish. It moves with your actual skin texture and your actual fine lines. It's not just going to sit there flat. So I hope that makes sense when I talk about products being flexible. Anyways, very flexible formula, beautiful coverage. For all of my fuller medium coverage people out there, this is definitely a top-notch product. Calling all my sheer and light coverage people out there, you already know Chanel Freshwater Tint. Now I have both options here. I have the original Freshwater Tint, and then I have the new Freshwater Touch, I think is what it's called, Freshwater Complexion Touch. This one has more coverage. This one has a medium coverage. This one is sheer to light coverage. Now, I like these for different reasons. If you want model skin, just like model, barely there, let's say you don't have a ton of redness or imperfections, but maybe you do have enlarged pores or texture, this is gonna be beautiful. Like, this is the epitome. This is my girl in the summertime when I just want that glowing, youthful looking skin. Now granted, you are not going to get a ton of coverage with this. The reason this works so well with textured skin is there is not a lot of pigment in it to pick up on texture. So if you're down with that and maybe you're just okay with showing a little bit of imperfections, this is the one. However, if you do want a little bit more coverage, I have to say that I was more pleased with the Water Fresh Touch than I thought I was going to be. I really didn't have high hopes for this because I just truly didn't think anything could beat the original. Now, a bonus with the Complexion Touch is that there is no fragrance in this. Unfortunately, the original water tint has that classic Chanel fragrance, which I don't like. And maybe they've changed it since I've purchased because I feel like a lot of people really gravitated towards this because it does not have a smell whatsoever. So with this formula, you still have that nice gel texture and pigment suspended within it, but it is significantly more pigment. I mean, if you compare these side by side, you can see how much more is in this. The reason this one also works really good for texture is something about that like serum gel that it's encapsulated with just blends beautifully on the skin. It's like an instant shot of hydration. It's almost like it doesn't allow the pigment to immediately mix with like fine lines or texture. Something about this, like just whatever it's encapsulated with, it's lovely. And I do think it's some type of gel. Let's move into some concealers. And I forgot to mention the majority of this video is going to be complexion. So foundation, concealer, and powder. However, I do have some blushes and bronzers that I want to throw in because blushes and bronzers can also make or break cheek texture. So I wanted to talk about a few at the end that have my stamp of approval. But let's go ahead and get into concealers. I have 5 formulas I want to talk about. This is a highly underrated formula, and I think it's just because it's not a brand that you immediately think about when you think of makeup, and it's the Honest Beauty Fresh Flex Concealer. So the Fresh Flex Concealer kind of has like a deceiving name in my opinion. When I first got this, I thought, oh, okay, it's going to be like light YSL Touche Éclat coverage. No, this is a very good coverage concealer. I would say medium full coverage. And just like the name says, flex, it's very flexible. It's what I'm wearing today, and I get beautiful coverage with it, and I don't find that it looks creasy or cakey. You can even see when, at least when I move my tube around in here, it is pretty watery, so it has that lovely flexible consistency that I keep going back to. But this is just a highly underrated formula in general. I would definitely recommend checking it out. I honestly order mine from the Honest website because that's where I get my son's diapers from. So yeah, I got mine directly from the Honest Beauty website, and I think that might be the only place that you can get it. I've not seen it at my Walgreens, although I have not looked super close. So this was a drugstore formula I loved all last year, the L'Oreal Age Perfect Radiant Concealer. I often compare this to Dior Forever Skin, also Armani Luminous Silk, which, by the way, I mean, I'm already going to talk about Armani Luminous Silk, so let's talk about these two formulas. I think they're very similar. I think you can get a little bit more coverage with the L'Oreal one, so if that's something you're interested in. They just have beautiful textures, very versatile. You can use them for under eye area. You can use them for blemishes, and they offer medium coverage. I would say both of these, you might get a little bit more with the L'Oreal one, but I don't necessarily try to build these up when I use them. Armani Luminous Silk, you might be asking, well, why wasn't Armani Luminous Silk foundation in your lineup? Although I describe Armani Luminous Silk as being pretty much like 100% versatile, I totally believe that it is, and it looks beautiful on textured skin. The reason I didn't include it in my lineup is because I find that the formulas that I'm mentioning here have a little bit more longevity. When I'm using Armani Luminous Silk, it's not necessarily for the longevity on my skin. It's just for like completely beautiful skin, and it's probably gonna last me in like the 6-7 hour range, which is perfectly fine for me. However, I know that might not be the case for everyone. So Armani Luminous Silk Original Foundation, like always on my list, but I just thought some of these options that I presented you with were a little bit more functional. NYX, bear with me, this was the top winner in my last video for fast application products. And I talked about this being so good for fast application because it's literally foolproof. Like, you cannot mess this up. It's so thin and easy to apply, and it looks gorgeous on the skin. I use this as foundation sometimes. Absolutely immaculate vibes with this formula. They really did something here. I think this is the one. Yeah, this is the one that I compare more so to Dior Forever Skin, and it just has great coverage. You get a solid medium coverage, maybe even more if you wanted to build it up. Again, I don't F around and find out with that. Like, I pretty much just stop at medium coverage. Like, what I'm wearing today is a lot of coverage for me. But anyways, yeah, this is one of the most beautiful, not just drugstore concealer formulas, but just concealer formulas that I own in general. I'm always pleased when I wear it, and it's just so easy to spread out, and it's super thin, and it will not emphasize texture. Okay, so I'm going to run you through some bronzers and blushes really quick because, like I said, I feel like they can make or break a look. And it's not, I feel like they totally can make or break a look, especially when you might be dealing with some texture. So the first up is the BeautyPie smoothing bronzers. And when I first got these in, I did get these in PR, I kind of thought it was like a little gimmicky because they do actually claim to smooth your skin. I love using these bronzers. They are so incredibly like finely milled, and they do give a smooth appearance to the skin. Like, I'm not even gonna front, I was actually really shocked when I used these because most of you know I use cream bronzer the majority of the time. But I think that this really does live up to the claim. It is supposed to smooth the skin. And I think if you especially might have more combination oily skin, you will probably thoroughly enjoy this. I mean, I have normal dry, and I thoroughly enjoy it. So yeah, it's a great formula. Definitely one to check out if you're already a BeautyPie member. If you're not, I think my code still works. I've had a BeautyPie code for such a long time now. But yeah, definitely check it out. It also comes with refillable packaging, so you can, you know, just buy the actual refills. This is what I'm wearing on my skin today, and I'm not wearing any highlighter. And yes, it's a bronzer, and that's what I love about it. It is this multi-use product that is really smoothing on the skin, and I think if you are dealing with texture and you may not necessarily want to go in with multiple products, so like a contour, a bronzer, and then an actual highlighter. This is kind of, well, I wouldn't say this is a contour, but it's a bronzer and highlighter in one, and it's the Makeup by Mario Soft Sculpt Transforming Skin Perfector, and I have mine in the shade Light Medium. I love this. I was not expecting to love this as much as I did. I really held off on trying this for a really long time because I didn't think it was a necessity in my collection, and I mean, it's definitely like none of my makeup's a necessity, but it has been a very pleasing product because I throw this on like in the morning with barely anything on my skin, and it looks great. It gives me a nice little glow, adds some color to my skin, and it's just super seamless. That's what I love about it. So I am wearing it today, and that's what you see this glow coming from here. This lower portion right here, they are like highlighters, powder highlighters. Yeah, honestly, they don't look riveting when you look at them in the packaging, but they are so smooth and natural. And I would 10 out of 10 recommend this if you've been eyeing it, or if you like a quick multi-purpose product, because this is a throw on and go. You know what? Why didn't I mention this in my fast applying products video? Because this is fast. I'm talking like, sometimes I don't even put foundation on. I literally just like. Also wearing a little bit of this guy here. This is an oldie but a goodie, and I will say really any baked product just ultimately gives like a super smooth finish to the skin, and this is the Laura Mercier Matte Radiance Baked Powder. I have it in the shade 01, and I am wearing it today, and it is seamless and beautiful. I'm actually just like looking at my skin, and I'm kind of in awe. Like, this is sorcery because I have really horrible texture happening not only on my eyelids, but my chin, around my nose. The most I can see my makeup is around my nose. And that's just like, that's how it's gonna be. Like, there's nothing that's gonna fix that. That's how it is. Anyways, lovely smooth formula. This is an oldie. Like, this has been around for a long time. And I also love the matte Radiance highlighters from Laura Mercier. That's another really beautiful formula that could work well on textured skin. But I didn't really want to talk about highlighters today because I just feel like if you're dealing with texture, the less the product, the least amount of products, the better. And highlighters just sometimes, unfortunately, tend to bring out texture. So we stopped at blush and bronzer, but this is a lovely, smooth bronzing formula. And I would highly recommend. It's going to look super soft and almost, what's the word I'm looking for? Diffusing on the skin. Let's talk about the blush I'm currently wearing. I am wearing the Laura Mercier Tinted Moisturizer blushes. I love these. They have a very unique formula. They are, like, okay, the texture of these remind me of Glossier cloud paints, but with more pigment. And the thing with Glossier cloud paints, they're very finicky because they have a high water content and a low pigment content. So they really always disturbed my base when I wore them, but these do not. These look like a little pillowy cloud of, you know, pink, coral, whichever shade you go for. And I just find that they bring life back to the skin, but they also look very smooth and they set very well on the cheeks. Really underrated. I don't know why these aren't talked about more, but I love them. And especially in the summertime, like spring, summer, I'm kicking these back out. Add a little dot, just pat into the cheeks, and it's beautiful. You're not gonna see texture. It just looks soft, lit from within, healthy. No surprise here, this is probably the #1 blush formula if you have textured skin and you do not want it to pick up on anything. This is #1, Daniel Sandler Watercolor. I'm going to consider you deviant and unappreciative because everyone needs a Daniel Sandler watercolor in their collection. This is fluid. This is like fluid, thin as you possibly can get. There's absolutely no way that this product picks up on texture. And if you come to me and you say that it does, you're lying. Like, that's how strongly I feel about this. And I will not tolerate any slander, okay? That's how it's gonna be around here. We ride or die with these blushes, and we have been for like the past 5 years. Yeah, I mean, a tiny little drop on your cheeks is going to be the thinnest, most beautiful, most luminous, healthy looking blush that you can get on the market. And I still stand by that to this day, 5 years later after using these. I mean, they are just stunning. And if we're talking in terms of looking for products that you don't want to enhance texture, this absolutely will not, and it will change your life. Like, it's gonna be your favorite blush from the moment it comes into your possession. All right, last but not least, we have Kaja Cheeky Stamp blushes. Definitely K-beauty vibes happening here. These are very bouncy on the skin. Like, they look bouncy, fresh, healthy, and just like lifted. You know what I mean? Like, something about them is very youthful. Like, even when you touch the formula in here, it's very soft and almost like serum-like. So it's no surprise that these absolutely set like a dream on the skin. Don't love the packaging of Cheeky Stamp. It's kind of annoying, but I just take a sponge and I dab into the sponge that's actually in here, if that makes any sense at all. But these are just, yeah, like bouncy, healthy, luminous, lit from within. But never in my life have I felt like this has picked up on texture. So it's a great option if you're wanting that just luminous, bouncy look without something picking up on texture. All right, I think we're done. I feel like this is gonna be one of my longer videos, but I hope I gave you some info on some things to check out if you're struggling with textured skin. If you just have textured skin in general and you just haven't found the right products, these are definitely some top items in my collection that I just reach for anytime I have a flare up or extra texture. Extra texture, I've never said that. Anyways, you get the picture. Anytime my skin's unhappy, these are what I'm reaching for. So hope you enjoyed, and I'll see y'all in my next video.